I know that there's some of you out there who have been waiting for me to reach Kyoryuu Sentai Zyuuranger. This is the second Famicom game based on a Super Sentai series, and it's the one that someone from the US might actually recognize. The plot of the series was that after 10,000 years, the witch Bondora was free, and she decided that it's time to conquer Earth. The wizard who imprisoned her before lost his powers in that battle, so he has to recruit 5 teenagers with attitude to defeat the witch for him. There are 5 rangers, and they each have exactly 1 stage. There is no final stage or challenge after that. It's you play each ranger in turn, and then it's over. There aren't even any giant robot battles in this game. The previous Super Sentai game, Chojin Sentai Jetman, was developed by Natsume, and it was a decent but not really outstanding game. Kyoryuu Sentai Zyuuranger was developed by Arc System Works, and in 1992 they were no Natsume. Their game is just awful. I tried to think of a way to polish it up a bit here, and I really can't. This feels like a quick, cheap cash-in. Basically the kind of thing that gave licensed games their bad reputation. This is a side-scrolling action game where the A button jumps and the B button attacks, and all 5 stages play out pretty much the same. The biggest difference between the 5 stages is that stage 3 is kind of a maze. You always start with that stage's ranger using a gun. The gun, however, is a pretty crappy weapon. It takes several hits to defeat any enemy, but halfway through the stage you meet the wizard, and he swaps the gun for your ranger's weapon. These weapons always kill the non-boss enemies in 1 hit, but they're also pretty crappy weapons. Okay, the Pink Ranger's bow is fine, but for everyone else, the range is microscopic. And for the unfortunate Yellow Ranger on the first stage, their attack becomes a combo where the first swing goes behind them. Your huge sprite and your tiny attack come together to make a really unpleasant feeling game. You're just gonna get beaten up a lot, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. If you run out of health while playing a stage, you go back to the beginning and have to start all over. The way that you recover health is by collecting the medallions, and when you get 10 of those, you get a brief picture of your dinosaur mech, and then your health is refilled. And that's it. Nothing else. They're not required to complete the stage, you never get into your mech at any point, they're just health refills. At the end of every level there's a boss, and 3 of the 5 bosses teleport to different points on the screen, and then release some enemies onto you. Because you have to melee them, you really don't have an option except to get in close, in which case you're probably going to get hit by whatever they launch. If you die against a boss, you just reappear right there, so your best option is to just stand there and take it. If you defeat a boss, then you get a cutscene of Bondora hanging out with the Green Ranger, and then you have an opportunity to play a minigame. You can play some Pong, which is the only time that the giant robots appear, answer a quiz about the show, or throw bombs back and forth. You can also skip right to these mini-games from the main menu. You gain an extra life when you score a point in these mini-games, so you'll definitely want to at least give them a shot. After that, you get a password, and the passwords are just as well thought out as the rest of the game. The password is the Red Ranger in one of 3 poses, and in one of 3 different positions. The math savvy among you may have realized that this means that there are only 27 possible passwords, which means you could just brute force it. The game has 2 different difficulty levels. I wound up playing on normal. The difference between the difficulties is just as well thought out as the rest of the game. On easy difficulty, you get more medallions. Now you can only use the healing effects of the medallions once in a stage. On normal mode, there's 11 or 12 medallions per stage, which means you heal right before you reach the boss. On easy mode, there's about 20 medallions on the stage, which means you heal way before you reach the boss. That actually makes the game harder. Not that this is an especially difficult game to begin with. I hadn't played it before I started recording, and I beat the game half an hour later. You reach the end of the 5th stage and there's the Green Ranger, and he just leaves. Yeah, he was there in all the cutscenes and then doesn't do anything in the game. And Bondora as the final boss is even easier than most of the other bosses. The Famicom game Kyoryuu Sentai Zyuuranger does not have a good reputation in Japan. I know, it's a real shocker after all of that. The only people who seem to have any kind of fondness for it are the ones who love the original show so much that they were willing to overlook all of those problems. Obviously, I hated this one. I haven't even gotten into how mushy the controls feel, something that goes just perfectly with your tiny attack range. The stage design is bland and repetitive. With the exception of the labyrinth in Stage 3, there really isn't a whole lot of difference between the other stages. This is a nothing game. There's nothing here. It was made solely to capture the spending money of children who like the show, and it's about as cynical of cash-in as we're going to see on the Famicom.